Quicklearn Academy. Today, let's talk about DNA. And before I write anything, I want you to think about something. How does a tiny cell know how to build an entire human being? Think about that for a second. How does your body know how to make eyes, hair, skin, muscles, bones, and all of your organs? Well, somewhere inside your cells, there must be a set of instructions, and that's where DNA comes in. Let me write that down. DNA. DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Now don't worry too much about memorizing that name. For now, I want you to think of DNA as the instruction manual of life. Actually, let's draw a cell first. I'm just going to draw a very simple cell here. Nothing fancy, just a circle. And inside that circle, let's draw another circle. This smaller circle represents the nucleus. Now, most of the DNA is found inside the nucleus. So, let's zoom in. I'm going to draw a long strand. Actually, a really long strand. Because DNA is surprisingly long. If all the DNA in a single cell were stretched out, it would be about 2 meters long. And yet somehow it fits inside a microscopic nucleus. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. Now, when most people see DNA, they picture something like this. Let me draw it. First, a curved line. Then another curved line. And then I'll connect them with little bars, just like this, and a few more. There we go. This structure is called a double helix. Let's write that beside it. Double helix. A double helix is basically a twisted ladder. And once you see it as a ladder, understanding DNA becomes much easier. Let's zoom in on one small part of this ladder. Because DNA is actually built from smaller pieces. Let me draw one. I'm going to draw a circle here. Then a pentagon. And then a rectangle. Now let's label them. This circle represents a phosphate group. The pentagon represents a sugar called deoxyribose. And this rectangle represents a nitrogenous base. Together, these three parts form a nucleotide. And a nucleotide is the basic building block of DNA. Think of it like this. If a wall is made of bricks, then DNA is made of nucleotides. Now, here's where things get really interesting. There are only 4 kinds of bases in DNA. Only 4. Let me write them down. A, T, C, and G. A stands for adenine. T stands for thymine. C stands for cytosine. And G stands for guanine. Just 4 letters. And somehow, those 4 letters contain the instructions for all life. Now, these bases follow a very specific rule. A always pairs with T, and C always pairs with G. Let me draw that. A over here. T over here. C over here. G over here. They pair up every single time, no exceptions. Now, imagine these letters arranged in different orders. The same way letters form words and words form sentences. DNA bases form biological instructions, and those instructions are called genes. Now here's the problem. DNA contains the instructions, but DNA stays safely inside the nucleus. So how do those instructions get out? How does the cell actually use the information? This is where RNA enters the story. Let's write RNA over here. R, N, A. RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. And if DNA is the master blueprint, RNA is the working copy. Imagine you're building a house. You probably wouldn't carry the original blueprint everywhere. You'd make a copy. That's basically what RNA does. Now let's compare DNA and RNA. I'm going to draw them side by side. DNA has 2 strands. RNA usually has only one. DNA uses the base thymine. RNA replaces thymine with uracil. So instead of A pairing with T, A pairs with U. U for uracil. Now there are 3 major types of RNA. Let's make 3 boxes. 1, 2, 3. mRNA, tRNA, rRNA. Messenger RNA, or mRNA, carries the instructions copied from DNA. Transfer RNA, or tRNA, delivers amino acids. And ribosomal RNA, or rRNA, helps form the ribosome. Now let's put everything together. DNA stores the information. RNA carries and interprets the information. And proteins are built from that information. DNA, 2, RNA, 2, protein. DNA to RNA to protein. And that simple pathway is one of the most important ideas in biology, because every living thing depends on the flow of information from DNA to RNA and ultimately to proteins. And that's the big picture of DNA and RNA.
If this lesson helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Right here, where learning is quick, clear, and meaningful.